to this week's episode of the Sales and Onboarding series by RevRag. I am Arushi, part of the Founders Office team at RevRag, and I'll be your host for today. So, last week we had a very interesting panel discussion, right? Where we invited six people. We had Venkat sir, we had Pankaj sir as well, and we decoded how banking, the evolution has taken place in the last 2 decades. We spoke about the AI layer of a relationship manager. We spoke about different products. We went into depth in them, and it was overall a very insightful discussion. So, if you want to check it out, it is on our YouTube page. For today, we have a very specific topic, and not a lot of people talk about it. That is why we wanted to, bring it up and discuss it in detail. And it'll be a very conversational tone, it'll be a very fun chat. So that's about it. Let me introduce you to the folks today. So joining us, we have Ashutosh, co-founder and CEO at DevRag. He's been at the forefront of building AI agents for digital onboarding in BFSI. Thanks for joining us, Ashutosh.
Thanks for having me, Arushi. Always glad to be here.
Yeah. And then we have Mayan. He is the co-founder and CEO at Genstaq. And he will bring a lot of tech and product perspective on the applications of AI agents in digital onboarding and various other areas. So thanks for coming, Mayan.
Thank you, Arjun.
Yeah. So I think we can jump into the topic. So let's start from the basics, from the very fundamentals. Ashutosh, I'd like to ask you, how would you define embedded AI agents? And why do you think they should be talked about now? Why they are the next step in, digital onboarding in banking, lending, insurtech, and fintech?
Right. So I think what we have seen is majorly uh, there has been a physical presence of people while we use a financial product, right? It's like very heavy physical presence of agents on the ground, agents while you are going to a bank, agents while you talk to them over a call, right? And pre-COVID era, there was like full offline ways of doing all these journeys, all these onboardings, all these sales, right? After COVID happened, mostly the experiences were digital, right? And everybody jumped into digital, and that's how basically most of the bank started offering digital journeys. While it was actually a good uh, thing that happened, because it increased the scale, it increased the uh, like accessibility. Now people can actually create accounts, get loans, get insurance cards from anywhere, anytime, moment, right? But due to the complexity of these products, right, financial products are not easy to understand for a general audience, we know that, right? If I, let's say, ask you today that which insurance do you want to buy, in, like, let's say, which health insurance you want to buy, which will be a health insurance right for you, you will never have an answer on top of your mind. You will start having, instead of answers, you'll start having questions. Ki, okay, uh, will there be good enough hospitals that it covers? Will there be hospitals that are covered in my area, right? Will there be my family covered? And so many, like, there are lot more questions that come into a user's mind or a general audience mind, right? Similarly, if you, like, even if it's a loan as well, let's say if it's a home loan, right? People tend to ask, okay, whether it's reducing, how much processing fees will be there, what is the timeline, is, are there uh, foreclosed uh, foreclosed charges or not, a lot of questions again, right? So these BFSI as a segment has complexity in their product, right? And for general audience to understand these product, it's not easy, they have a lot of questions. And pre-COVID, these questions were getting answered while the user was going into bank, talking to a lot of agents on the ground. Mostly the things were on paper, right? But when it went digital, people started doing digital journey, but they were not getting their own answers, right? And whenever, let's say, you are applying a loan, whenever you are buying insurance or card or anything, right, you have questions. So if, imagine there is a Siri, a Siri sitting on top of your app, but much smarter Siri, right? Not a dumb Siri of sort, right? But a smarter Siri sitting on top of your app, answering all your questions. Or you can imagine in this way, right? A contact center sitting on top of your app, in an icon where you can talk to that agent and ask all of your questions. That agent can actually help you navigate, can help you fill forms, can help you basically do all your uh, uh, transactions or whatever you want to, like, buy or apply, or do on that BFSI app, right? It gives user a feeling that there is somebody who is actually going to help me complete my journey, right? So I think as of now, people have taken onboarding drop offs as a reactive way, right? Now it's time to be proactive. That is why like, we are also at RevRack are seeing huge jump, and people and companies are actually uh, interested in proactive approach to this, right? Where, let's say, uh, an embedded agent is sitting on top of the web journeys, uh, apps, where it is guiding the customer, right? So it is the most important, utmost important, actually, right? And think it from that perspective. As I said, it is like BFSI has been treating drop offs as a, like, uh, reactively, right? They think, okay, if somebody has dropped off, I have to basically uh, use a contact center and recover those customers to reduce my CAC. This is the thought process that comes whenever there is a drop off, right? How about if we reduce those drop off through these embedded agents by guiding our customers, making them comfortable, answering all the questions then and there itself, right? And even,
I
let's
have a
say,
question,
tomorrow.
Ashutosh.
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
So let's say if I want to take a loan, or like I'm on an onboarding app on my phone. We usually get this chatbot, right? We enter our queries on the spot, and then it either gives an automated answer or takes us to the human agent to whom we can speak. So
Right.
is that what you're referring to, or how different it is from what the current solution is?
Right. No, no, absolutely. I think this is a great question. So, as we have seen that a greatest unlock of AI, like one of the greatest unlock of AI is voice AI, right? Where we can feel that there is a human who is trying to talk to us, right? So just taking that part of AI and implementing on top of an app, not just chat. Chat is, for sure, it was automated, uh, but not in a way that we used to, like, have now, not in a way that we have today, right? So it's very conversational. Earlier it was a tree type of a structure, right? Decision, if else, so on and so forth. Now it is more sort of agentic, where, like, I ask a question, it is a conversational AI which is talking and giving answer. So not just chat, it is more sort of a voice agent, and which gives a feeling of human, right? Which gives a feeling of an agent sitting on top of the app and guiding the customer through and through.
So what you're saying is that it converses like a normal human would. It's not like, it just gives direct answers like a chatbot would give. And let's say if I'm probably stuck on a page and I can't figure out in what way can the voice there, the embedded agent, can help me if I'm stuck on a page. Maybe I'm uploading a wrong format, or the numbers that I'm entering are incorrect.
Absolutely. I think this, uh, when we were building fintech, right, there were multiple problems that we also saw. First hand experience was there, right? So uh, we saw that a lot of people actually get stuck while entering their DOB, date of birth. It's a common problem, believe me. Like, I have had a chat with multiple people in BFSI, product managers, and everybody has struggled with this. Second problem, I'll tell you. One of our customer was addressing this like 2 to 3 days back. People have different name on their Aadhaar. There is Aadhaar name mismatch that happens very frequently with PAN card and Aadhaar, right? Now, customer is confused. What should I do, right? How can I explain this to uh, an app where I'm applying for a loan, right? Uh, they usually drop off. And if they are getting complex UX or UI, they usually drop off because there is no one to help them figure out those things. Now, just imagine there is an agent sitting on top of it, or on top of the app, and is able to watch the viewport and able to understand that my user is struggling here, right, and has not moved or not done anything for like 3 to 4 seconds, and there is an error as well that is coming in. I can probably help my user and make like get him unstuck and move it in the positive direction or whatever, majorly to the activation, right? So I think this is where the game changes. This is where your drop offs reduce. This is where you are actually proactive.
You know, you're right. There are these small nuances which can, make or break the game. And, this is where the focus should be. And it's these small things which, make the user drop off very easily and we don't pay much attention to it. And you correctly said that during COVID was a game changer for us. Before it, most of the things were manual, and after that, a lot of digitization took place. For lending companies, it was a great time because a lot of customers came up to them and they had to figure out a solution how to scale, because the manpower crunch was a very big problem. So probably we can say that this concept is not very old. It is somewhat new, 5 6 years old. Not a lot of information out there about this. So yeah, thanks for the gist, Ashutosh. I really enjoyed the complete explanation that you gave about the fundamentals of embedded AI agents. Now, Mayan, now from a tech perspective, what does now that we involved in disrupting them, we know how agents are. How do they work from a tech perspective? This is the main thing that we want to improve.
Sorry, Ayushi, I think it was a question for me. I think I lost you. Can you come again? There was some internet issue at your end,
Yeah,
I
sure,
think.
no worries. So, Mayan, yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so Mayan, I wanted to understand from you, how do these agents work from a tech perspective? What is involved in making them work and integrating them into the existing BFSI systems without affecting the customer experience, which is what we are eventually working towards.
Got it, got it. No, so I think the conversation is moving in the right direction. So I think what we Ashutosh has pointed out is the first wave of digitization that happened during COVID and post-COVID, right? And then there were systems which were rather dumb, right? So there were tree-based simple chatbots, which are basically more like forcing the user towards certain flows that it could understand rather than trying to actually seamlessly help the user, right? So I think we are at least at this point moving away from those systems. So what right now the AI agents are doing is basically they are sitting within the existing digital workflows of your BFSI use cases. So these workflows are across channels. So it could be WhatsApp, it could be website apps, etc. So the net point being that, first of all, these are not standalone systems now, right? These are integrated with your backend subsystems. So, for example, in the case of credit industry, it could be your LMS, your LOS systems, right? Even your CRMs for that matter, right? So, what that results into is the conversations at the minimum are context aware, and that is where the magic lies, right? Earlier the systems were very standalone. They were they were isolated from everything else that you as a user have been doing with this, let's say, digital product, right? But now, since these are deeply integrated with your existing subsystems at the backend, there is very high context awareness, which results into a behavior of AI agents where they are trying to understand, okay, where you are stuck, what you are trying to fundamentally do, where you're trying to edge. So are you trying to move ahead in the journey, or are you stuck, as you were mentioning some examples, in the page that you're already at, right? Maybe you're just trying to, maybe your aim for today is just to complete a certain page and then maybe look at rest of the journey tomorrow, right? So this context awareness, uh, by being integrated across systems, helps agents to behave in that manner, right? Now, how does the integration happen at the tech level? So there is this integration layer could be thought of as your APIs, of course. There is prompts, right? And there is a lot of tool calling, which is what makes these agents very intelligent, right? At least not as dumb as the systems that we have seen. And as a result, there is a very fine balance of integration to result in, the idea is to have a very light touch, in like a conversation, or light touch experience with the user, so that there is a very smooth experience of, where the agent or the AI system seems more like trying to help you and not really, uh, get in between the workflow or the flow that that is being done by the user, right? So I think uh, that's what our observation has been from a tech perspective, right? So net point being that, since these are not standalone systems, and integrated with your subsystem, results into very high context awareness, and then there is a natural difference in terms of behavior, because now there is a language model which is already has consumed so much of human conversations, that it tries to naturally help or understand, first of all, what you are trying to do, where you are trying to edge, and then tailor the conversation accordingly so that it feels very seamless. It feels quick, intelligent, crisp, smart as a human would. So that's what it looks like at the tech level at this point. You're on mute, Arushi.
Yeah, sorry. So I have a follow-up question.
Mhm.
You just mentioned that, the AI layer is deeply integrated, which is why there won't be a barrier of integrations when, a lot of clients have these questions that their systems are not integrated. How will the AI agents work? Was it always this way, or when did this change? When did this ease come into the picture so that, the whole uh, process could be seamless for clients, and this barrier, when was it removed? Can you just tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, I think if I got the question correct, right? So I think a very simple way to understand this is, before language models, you could not give any AI system a PDF, and and it couldn't understand that PDF, right? Something that simple was not possible. After language models, you could give like multiple paragraphs, or kind of bunch of text in any format. PDF is just an example of that format, right? And suddenly it could understand it. It could put that text, which is into the context of a conversation, for example. So I think that's where the things changed. Before these, everything was very rigid. You had to literally put a logic of if else or a tree structure. Once the language models could understand something like a PDF and the text inside, and then put that into use in the context of a conversation, I think everything changed. Things became fluid. So net, your answer to your question would be, integrations were happening before as well. It was not something new, or newly thought of. But the experience, because of language models
Mhm.
capability, became fluid after you could consume text and again utilize that, not just consume but utilize that in a very human manner. So I think that's where the output became human like and conversational. But integrations existed before as well. Yeah.
All right, all right. That is great. So now we know the context, right? We know what they are, how they work, and they are deeply integrated. So that is not a barrier anymore. Um, I want to understand, now that we've spoken about um, what goes on into making them, but what about their application, right? And specifically, if we start with India, whenever I think of India, the only thing that comes to my mind is multiple languages and diversity. Different dialects, different slangs. Um, so this is the first challenge, languages. Ashutosh, how do these embedded AI agents adapt their communication style based on the user's region or the cultural background, right? To create, a relatable, a smooth onboarding process, especially if you talk about tier two, tier three cities, right? I mean, in urban areas, English or Hindi could work, but when you go deep down, where the real potential of, the real scale is, how does that come into play?
I think very valid question, and a lot of these questions come to us while we are actually demoing our product uh, or basically showing it to people. Because see, India is nuanced, as you said, right? Every every 10 kilometers dialect change, every 25-kilometer language can change, right? So uh, you have to be cognizant about uh, that how your agents are actually uh, talking to or conversing to your users, right? And as Mayan rightly said, that now we have fluidity, and it's not a tree structure of sort where we can basically uh, it's not if and else now. So it's more sort of intelligence part of it, right? So luckily we have that. First, I think, and at the same time we also have data from if let's say we are implementing. So imagine we are getting implemented in SBI, right? Example, right? There is an SBI app, Uno app, right? Let's say Uno app is being used in Tamil Nadu, right? So my first preference to the agent would be Tamil, right? So let's say first language would be Tamil, and then if user starts conversating or to the embedded agent or the AI agent which is sitting on top of the app, it can easily understand which language was being spoken, right? There are ASR models which can be used here and to grab what type of language was being used, right? And then convert that or auto switch it to that language. It should be under the capability as well, right? There are some languages in India which are still nuanced, and there is not much capability there, but there are like 11 to 12 languages which are being spoken by the LLMs, being spoken by being understood by uh, TTS model, STT models as well, right? So the capabilities are increasing, and at the same time, you have to put some logics as well with the help of your uh, already existing stack. Let's say if you have an app, then you are actually taking location as an input. You are actually taking language as an input, so you can preferably have that first layer there, and then intelligently these embedded agents are conversating depending on what users preferences are, right? So that is something that we are actually trying to do at our end as well, and this will become smarter and smarter as we go, right? uh,
Right.
lot of the languages will be solved by these model foundational model companies. A lot of these TTS STTs will be solved by uh, these the companies that are building them, right? And we as an application layer will be able to like easily put them into use case and supply it to our users, right, our clients, right? So that is the thought process that we have. And even from that perspective, there will be a time where there will be voice to voice LLMs as well, which will be coming in for Indian languages as well, right? So there are some companies which are attempting to that, and there will be those companies that will be coming in for sure. So then TTS STT will become obsolete technology for that matter, right? So there will be there will be new innovations that will keep happening. And uh, now that AI is here, I think it is moving at a speed which which we can see, right? It's phenomenal speed, and every day we see new use cases jumping in. LinkedIn feeds getting new videos, new demos of a lot of new use cases.
Right. So just to summarize that point of yours, I mean, majority of the languages are already there, which are being used. However, like there's a lot of changes which are also taking place, and I'm personally really excited to, see what voice is capable of specifically. Um, like you said, there'll be voice to voice instead of text. So let's see how things play out in the future. Uh, Around this, I also have one question. So, I mean, a lot of languages, a lot of people, with it comes a lot of data as well, right? So, Mayan, this one's for you. Um, letting AI handle such huge data. I'm not sure if the BFSI industry would be comfortable with that, or in fact, the customers who are, the main clients would be comfortable with that. How is that barrier being resolved, and how does transparency come into play here? Can you please tell us about that?
No, got it. I think also to add to Ashutosh's points, I think the way we should ideally look at from a tech perspective, at least, is that there is because there are moving parts, at least at the as we speak, there are no speech to speech models for most of the languages, right? We probably have them for English, right? So uh, currently, because there are moving parts there, right? Language models are, let's say, for example, more capable of understanding multiple languages. They would normally wouldn't care about dialects because that's more about speaking than about putting that into words, right? So you could because language models understand misspelled words as well, right? So for them, dialects is nothing but misspelled language, right? Which is what exactly, to some extent, dialects are. It is dialect is not a language, right? So there is a language, but dialect is a lot of contextualization in terms of, first of all, what one word could be meaning in a certain region, for example, right? Or perceived meaning at least, and then pronunciation could be different. So I coming from a certain region would be pronouncing a word wrong, but you'll understand if you're from the region, right? So yeah, the net point in language models fundamentally don't care and work fine with multiple languages, including dialects, because dialects is not something that affects their functioning. Then, of course, voice is where the complexity lies. So I think when Ashutosh is answering, because Revrag is doubling down on voice, there is a strong bias towards the voice related capabilities, right? But in general, with AI agents, because they're also text based at this point, not purely voice everywhere, right? It the performance basically drops by a huge differential as soon as we start integrating voice models to them, right? Again, with voice models, the complexity is different when it comes to speech to text and text to speech. So there are models that can uh, beautifully speak something like a Bhojpuri and a dialect in that language as well, right? If it is a one-way conversation, if it is a narration, right? But suddenly, as you put a speech-to-text model, you have to understand the user as well. Then again, the complexity is also multifold, and the performance drops, everything drops, including latency and whatnot, right? So I think that's for largely for the language part, right? When in terms of where we are tech wise, of course, speech to speech, as and when we move forward with it, would change things forever, including emotional understanding, or understanding of all these the wavelength of conversations, the pauses, and everything, right? From both the ends, it will get better as we move towards speech to speech models. So that's for the language part, since you were talking about Indic languages and that
Mhm.
perspective, right? Coming to your question, so help me understand if I have understood it correctly. You're trying to understand, since there is a lot of data involved, probably sensitive data as well, how comfortable the user is, or how are BFSI clients trying to manage it within the realms of regulations. Is that the question?
Or yeah, that is one part of it. And also, so in totality, I want to understand how, we can make as we can make clients comfortable with the usage of AI. We can kind of reassure them that, their data is in safe hands because trust is the forefront of this sector. And how is AI already uh, making sure that everything is safe and secure so that everybody's, reassured? I'm sure not the whole entire data set would not be in the hands of AI, right? Of course, human intervention is required, but up till what uh, stage can AI, handle such large data without any issues?
Got it, got it. So I think again, two, three things. First part of the answer would be around what we were already discussing, which is the complexity of queries, the Indic language complexity, and everything. So I think still the reality is that in general, even when the systems are language model based and fluid, it just performs better when there is more structure to the conversation than when there is no structure to it, right? So for example, scenarios like insurance claim being rejected, right? So it's a very distressful situation for the user side as well, right? So there might not always be a need for a logical answer. A human would understand that, an AI might end up giving a logical answer, or quickly trying to achieve the objective of the conversation, and less of trying to help the user or just listen out whatever, right? Again, if you structure it in a way that it is it's almost acting like a therapist, then it might end up extending that too much, right? So to understand, okay, this human is probably would want to hear more of comforting words, versus another human might quickly want is a more objective human, quickly wants to get to end of the story quickly, right? So that is where I think AI in general still suffers. It's not the best, but where it still works fine is that it can take so you're asking about the transparency in the system and trying to understand how to handle these complexities. So I think it can
Yeah.
transfer first of all the context and everything to the real human, right? So wherever the escalation is at a situation where you have to transfer it to human, AI does that. So I think in general the human and AI triage works very well to handle such situations. And then coming to the data sensitivity and transparency part in the BFSI context. So I think one thing is, of course, this is something where there is a lot of gray area at this point. So everybody's trying to figure out, because at one part there is the capability which is very promising. At the second part is the regulatory complexity. Now there is, of course,
Right.
I feel the regulatory bodies, the SEBI and IRDIs of the world are also, they would also try to, if they see any uptick, if they see things getting better from the consumer end, then there will surely be some guardrails and regulations, but they will allow BFSI players to integrate these technologies much faster. That is one perspective. Second is, I think, solving a lot of stuff on the fly. So what if I just uh, like there is an error in your PAN number, for example, we're trying to solve that. I help you solve that on the fly, but nothing gets stored, right? So that could be one way to move about sensitive data, still solving that problem for you, as if there is a human sitting next to you and helping you, with the rules and everything around PAN number, IFSC code, whatever, but nothing getting stored. is a probably a fair balance of making the use of this technology, but still in the guardrails of regulations. So I think there are experiments being going on. Everybody's trying to play in the safer area, and I think the larger BFSI players are also trying to talk it out with the regulatory bodies. So net answer being that there are experiments because there is technical capability which is promising, but at the same time we are trying to figure out fair balance of uh, ultimately the idea is that it should help user. It should be like a helpful uh, piece of technology for the consumer in the whole workflow. So I think that's where we are at.
From a purely client's perspective, from what I see is that AI being used in banking or lending from a client's perspective would be when we go on our phones and we have these mobile apps, all of small queries like, knowing the card number, resetting the PIN, and so on, and, a chatbot being there. That is what I see, probably AI or the digital infra doing. I personally really benefit from it, uh, you know. So I think from a user's perspective, the more AI comes into the picture, the more uh, better it would be for our experience. I'm sure retention problem, that would be solved up to a great extent. So you're right, AI plus human collaboration is
But
the
I
way
think
to go
I
in
think
BFSI.
there is another tech perspective here. So if we put explainability into the system at
Right.
its core, right? So for example, if anything was told to you by AI, and as a client, as a BFSI player, it can always be traced back. First of all, what was
Hmm.
said, then second of all, why. As long as we plan accordingly, wherein explainability is at the core of whole architecture, especially in the
Right.
context of BFSI, I think we will by hit and trials and by multiple iterations move towards a very solid system wherein the system understands its limitation, what not to say, what to say, where to bring in human intervention exactly, right? And all that stuff. And if it helps the consumer, if there is traceability of why anything was said or done, right? And if the technical parties involved in this whole process are willing to take accountability, then I think there is no going back. We are going to see more of these systems actually integrated into uh, players like SBI, for example. The players which deal with mass
Right.
consumer
One of
base
the
in India.
biggest.
Yeah, yeah.
I absolutely agree with you on that. Um, so, up till now, we've understood, of course, how the workings of an AI agent and, the data security part and how they operate in tier one, tier two cities. Um, I also wanted to understand how they are in complex situations, where human emotions are involved. So, Ashutosh, there are a lot of financial queries, complex queries, probably in high value financial products, or when there are insurance claims, or when there's a lot of technical jargon involved. Can these AI agents handle these emotional situations? And at what step of each stage is the case escalated to a human agent? Because we are talking about human and AI collaboration here.
Right. So, one thing to note is that AI today doesn't understand your emotions, right? At least the voice part of it. Uh, right? In future, it might uh, understand your tone, and depending on that, it might understand your emotions, right? Uh, and uh, there might be sentiments that might be generated, but it can be generated later in point, but it is not live. So it's very tough to understand. And then also getting implemented while you're speaking, meaning a voice agent today doesn't understand emotions, right? It can be done post the call by generating, understanding, doing a lot of breakdown of all those conversations.
right? Sentimental analysis in a way, right? Uh, so first piece is that. Second, I think we have already been working on complex use cases for onboarding, right? One part,
Ashutosh,
it,
wanted to add the
yeah,
to your first point, right? So I think that it's correct that they don't understand emotions today, right? But let's say there is a scenario where there is a situation which AI did not understand, and let's assume this is a system which could which transferred the call to a human, right?
mm,
I
mm,
think there is an opportunity from a tech perspective wherein so you know that it was a complex emotional situation. AI couldn't
right,
understand. That is true. And then obviously the human will solve it. Now, if this whole conversation, the recording of this whole conversation from AI and human, and then the third party getting involved, which is a actual human agent, and then solving the problem. I think this is a bank of data which can help
mm,
us train even the current systems or voice to voice models to also understand how to actually solve the emotionally stressed situation in the future. So while this is not solvable today, but if we could capture the whole conversation together, right, which is actually human solving it, this seems like a golden opportunity of very structured data with a very
mm.
clear understanding of very clear label that emotionally stressed situation solved or not solved, and then make use of it to train the next set of
No, no,
models.
absolutely. I think it's a very like it is a must-have thing actually if you see from the angle of voice agents, right? This is the
Mhm.
next realm that voice agents will jump into, or the voice models, voice LLMs will jump into, right? Because uh, today, if we are, let's say, walking on the road, and if we hear any voice screaming, right, we're able to understand what type of emotion that human might be going through, right? Uh, so if we want voice agents or to really perform like humans, emotion is a must-have. Right? I think
Absolutely.
second question was majorly about the complex jargons and complex queries at the same time, complex uh, calculations, let's say, right? So
Mhm.
I think this part where we are still doing better, right? Because this is where your LLM kicks in, right? So a lot of it is being solved by LLMs. You have to basically rightly prompt it, and basically, example I'll give you like what we do is a lot of negotiations happen during the loan offer, right? People ask, okay, I want more loan, uh, and why have you given me less loan, or why the offer is not good, I don't like it, so on and so forth, right? So there are multiple negotiations that happen, and AI is very empathetically able to answer those questions, take control of the conversation, and satisfy the user then and there, and not letting them drop. That's the like most crux of it, right? uh, Second piece is also doing calculations, right, on the fly, right? This is where RAG type of things kick in again, where you have already told, okay, this is how the loan calculation will be working, right? So the example would be, let's say I got a loan of 1 lakh rupees, and 3,000 rupees is the processing fees, and X is rupees is the interest, so on and so forth, right? So you are able to give functions. You have to basically prepare a function where LLM is able to understand, oh, this is a function, and this is how I'll be able to like calculate and give the answer back the uh, to the user, right? These parts are fairly solvable, and we are actually solving them while we speak, right? Uh, Other than that, I think there are complex jargons, I think, which because it's conversational AI, so most of them, if it's not in very regional language, which is not supported by LLMs, it is tough to basically crack it, but most of it is like understandable by the AI agent. And if there are right guardrails put in place, it is able to like go through the conversation, navigate, and bring the customer back to the objective that was supposed to be completed over the call.
It's nice that you broke down the whole structure into small elements where emotional sentiment, being a very big area where a lot of work still needs to be done, but it's the powerhouse where which can make a huge difference because that's one thing that AI, the capability is still being worked under. Um, So, we've discussed quite a lot, but I also want to understand one thing. It's not just one interface that clients are on. They're on multiple platforms. So, Mayan, I want to understand from a tech and product perspective. Uh, there are multiple channels during onboarding, websites, mobile apps, and support portals. So, how is the experience consistent over on these different platforms? And it's not fragmented. How is that taken care of, and how does it work?
So I think fair point. Probably true for not just BFSI, but in general, the consumer behavior is that today we are scattered in our usage. So I might be doing part of my stuff in the application, then doing the rest of it on, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
WhatsApp, and then maybe get to the web version of it. In fact, we do that with other stuff as well, right? For example, uh, you might be using social media also at times across channels, right, across different form factors. So it's as important, but like the way to look at this is, for example, this responsiveness, right, maintaining the experience across form factors, across your iPad, across your MacBook, your iPhone, right. uh, uh, it, so that's very critical to ensure there is a seamless experience. You don't feel that, oh, I switched the hardware, therefore the experience is suddenly degraded, right? So likewise, the user today would
Mm-hmm.
expect that if I switch to if I do step 1 to 4 on mobile application, then 4 to 10 on WhatsApp, there has to be a continuity that I feel in my overall experience,
Right.
right? So I think the tech part there is you're trying to again maintain the context, then you're also trying to maintain the state, as in where was the user uh, from in one platform, and then when so that when I switch the platform, there is the the experience is picked up from where I left, right? So that I feel
Mm-hmm.
that seamless integrations of these platforms, right, ultimately, and therefore the experience feels intelligent. For example, if I had a conversation with you as a, let's say, I had a conversation with a call center person, and if I call them, let's say 2 days after, so there is no surety that this person would be context aware of what we had in terms of conversation 2 days back, because this person is talking to hundreds of users every day, day in day out, right? And there is no way human memory can store so much. So probably your top 5 percentile of call center, or let's say people in sales, in relationship management, they only probably the top 5 or 10% are smart enough to utilize the context of previous conversations or interactions in a very smart way. Fundamentally, AI can do that across 100% of your conversations. So it is, from tech perspective, possible, but there are nuances as well to be solved for, right? Again, the understanding that human has in terms of what to pick and what not to pick from your previous conversation. So for example, uh, you know uh, you need not be reminded of your let's say mistakes in a process from your previous interactions, but probably something that encourages you to move ahead with the application or whatever, right? So that sort of human understanding of what to pick and what not to is still lacking. But from a pure data exchange perspective, AI can in fact be always aware of your interaction across platforms, across time zones, across channels in terms of voice, text, even video as we move forward.
One thing that I've really understood from this conversation is that a big difference between humans and AI agents is that these AI agents are always context aware. Humans might, note something down, record it, but these agents always have it on the top of their heads. And, that is a very big element, right? When you're talking to people and they have multiple questions, something from the past, the AI agent always knows the context much better. And while all of this is happening in real time, because AI agents are there 24/7,
Mhm.
human agents are not there. So, one question that comes to my mind is that how do these AI agents use, this real-time data? For example, like the credit history or the past interactions to personalize the experience for the user in real time. Ashutosh, any thoughts on it? In fact, I'll come to both of you, Mayan and Ashutosh, on this question. I want both of your inputs. So, how
I think
does this real
I think
time
Mayan,
happen?
yeah, Mayan can take this question first, and then
Sure,
if something is pending, probably I'll
sure,
because he
sure,
has
absolutely, man.
developed a lot of RAG and has done tremendous work there. So, would love to listen Mayan's thought on this.
Sure. So
Absolutely.
I think, Arishi, the answer lies in whatever we have spoken already, right? So, but to very structurally answer for this particular question is, I think, so there is two, three parts to it. There is, there is integration, of course, right? That happens with the subsystems, your backend systems, your CRMs and whatever, right? So that is one thing. Then second is the disclosure to your end user, that let's say your so there is a concept of continuous disclosure as well, right? For example, uh, you're using a mobile application, you're using YouTube,
Mhm.
there are certain permissions that YouTube takes when you sign up for the first time or you're logging in for the first time. Now you are using it just as you would, but suddenly when on the search bar you're trying to use the mic option to give an audio input. You click on the mic, there is a new pop-up that says that you need to give microphone permission, right? So this is basically your progressive disclosure, where you are at the right time disclosing that we need to access your XYZ information to process ABC, right? But we're not doing it all the time, right? So that's from the consumer perspective. If you have to disclose at the right time, so that whenever you're utilizing that information, for example, let's say you're trying to make an API request via an account aggregator system,
Mhm.
and wherein your question of using credit history data, for example, comes into play, right? So you're trying to utilize multiple financial data pointers to personalize the experience, right? So you disclose that, you take the permission, you take the consent, and then utilize it. And again, from the client perspective and regulation perspective, it is the auditable system which helps build the confidence, right? So if I can trace, if there is explainability and there is audit which can be possible anytime across the time period, right? Then basically there is confidence of the business and the regulatory body as well. So I think integration, then the uh, proper disclosure, progressive disclosure to the client, to the consumer, and then the traceability or audit part to it. That's how this seamless personalized experience can be delivered while taking care of every nuance. So nuance is the consent of consumer, the following of regulations, and the integrations of system in a very seamless manner. So I think so. For example, if you have an Android phone and you're using
Mhm.
Gemini at this point, they have a new model which is called, I think it's called Gemini personalization preview, right? So if you, I mean, if you ask a query which seems like a personal query, so you're trying, let's say the query that you ask the Gemini is, when did I last go to Mumbai? Now
Mhm.
it will ask you to give a certain permission of your web activity, for example, and then it can give you
Mm,
the answer. This is progressive disclosure of consent and everything. So this is an example. If you have an Android phone, you can try right away, right? So this that is how a personalized experience, keeping all the nuances and intact, is delivered at this point. Again, this is if Google is doing it in a preview format, then that means we're still trying to figure out a bunch of stuff here already. So, I mean, this is the present status quo. Things could change eventually.
this was actually quite interesting. A lot of pointers I did not know about the disclosure element. Ashutosh, any comments from your end that you want to add before we move on to the next and the last topic of the discussion?
Right. I think there is XAI or explainable AI, that is a concept that is being implemented across healthcare, finance, and certain other areas where explainability, scrutiny, and like decision of AI particularly can be challenged or can be seen or can be understood, right? So I think that is where I really like the part that man was trying to say. And then through this, uh, the trust is being developed, and through this, a lot of other things will be able to given to the user, right? Personalization, understanding the uh, understanding and basically serving it to the customer, right? So yeah.
No, no, absolutely agreed on this. Um, you know, all of the elements are being taken into play, the security part, uh, taking all the permissions and making sure that, the data is being used correctly. Like a lot of insights I got to know through the conversation that we had right now. Um, we've discussed quite a bit about embedded AI agents from all the angles. Uh, Once the onboarding journey is complete, right? I'm sure the whole journey of a customer does not end there. A lot of processes exist once the onboarding is complete. So what happens after that? How do you see AI agents extending beyond just the onboarding phase to ensure the customer stays? Retentions should not be a problem, and that is what AI embedded agents are solving. So, and let's just say not just retentions, probably upselling, crossing, all of these elements after the onboarding is complete. How do AI embedded agents come into play here, and how are they solving this issue? So probably Ashutosh, you can go first on this, and then we can also take Mayan's inputs on this.
Uh, right. I think see, while a customer is getting even like onboarded, right? You get to talk to the. Let's say we have implemented conversational AI all across and the engagement layer. Now, conversational AI is being used while sales, onboarding, post sales, and for retention and other areas as well, right? Now, particularly we are interacting with that customer, so we know a lot of other things which we didn't used to know because there was a limitation to the UI or form filling or other areas. Now we talk to those customers, do a lot of small chats, small talks, right? So there is a lot more data that is available, and you can use that data to basically probably recommend certain products which might make your life easier in cross-selling, upselling, and at the same time, customer is more sticky, having a relationship with the engagement layer that is there. We have seen you might have seen a movie uh, by the name Her, right? In that movie, if you see, there was a man who fell in love with a AI, which is now quite possibly true, right? So it might be actually kind of a similar thing that can happen probably in an AI RM which is sitting on top of the banking app, where it is selling, onboarding, retaining, building a relationship, recommending, having a greater retention layer, and basically uh, a relationship, a very deep relationship with the customer. I think this is where I see things will go, things will evolve to.
And how do you see RevRag, implementing these into, their
I think we
offerings?
uh, you're so I think we are the front runner in this. I think we will be uh, implementing all of these solutions, and we are very bullish on the engagement layer, the AI RM layer, the intelligence layer thing, and then we will be implementing the transformational layer as well, right? So where we can even change the UI of the apps and basically make it more intuitive, make it more personalized for the user, right? So this is where I think we are heading, and even everybody overall, right? This is where things will be going, and we will not be staying behind. I think that this is what our customers need, and uh, those people will be asking us to basically give these things to them, right? So yeah.
I'm sure it's really great to hear all of these points. And one thing that, you said that uh, for upselling, cross-selling, like these AI agents have a lot of context. Again, the context awareness comes into the play uh, because they know so much about the client, with all the little conversations they've had, all the data, all the whatever activities going on in the screens. These agents know everything about the customer and they can personalize the solutions afterwards. Um, Mayan, any additional points that you would want to pitch in here? Please let us enlighten us.
Right. No, I think very very beautifully put by Ashutosh of how this experience would be after even the onboarding journey. So there'll be everything. There'll be recommendation, cross selling, uh, question answering, whatnot, right? In a very unified manner. So I think in bits and pieces, these things have existed in some manner. So recommendation engines, for example, have existed for decades now, right? Cross selling, upselling has happened. Customer support has been driven through AI in some way or the other. The complexity where I see, or the nuance where I find it a little, like difficulty would be is how do you stitch together all these things first of all, right? And then how do you deliver it in a human-like manner so that it does not feel computerized delivery, right? So it feels human-like, probably better than a human. I think those are the two places where the challenge really lies. Otherwise, I think Ashutosh has described it very correctly of how ideal.
Now that we've covered the whole spectrum, right from, the basics to the multilingual part, the compliance, security of data to multi-channel, and the ending, which is, you know, the services after onboarding the client. We've had a great discussion. I personally have understood a lot, and I'm sure the audience, people who are watching it, have also taken a lot of pointers. Thank you so much for coming on this episode, Ashutosh and Mayan. Learned a lot of things from you. And
All,
to every,
always excited, yeah, always excited to be here, and I really enjoyed candid conversation. I think this was a very candid conversation, really insightful for me as well, and I hope the audience and they keep coming back and we record a lot more episodes.
Yeah, I think
absolutely.
very very insightful conversation, and I think from a very practical point of view as well, in terms of where we are, where things are headed towards. So, and what we could dream of in terms of AI taking over a lot of places, giving a better experience. If I mean, human like should be like the benchmark, and then you should edge towards things being better, right? For example, an angry customer should be treated with much more love from an AI than they were receiving from a human, right? Because of course AI can do that, right? There is no limitation. So yeah.
Totally agreed. And that's what the point of the conversation that we have is to break down, complex things into very basic, understandable conversations. And, I hope our viewers enjoy these conversations too. So, thank you both once again. And we have a lot of more exciting, different topics coming on in our next episodes. So, stay tuned for that. Thank you and bye bye.